We will not bow down. Let my people go. We will not bow down. Let my people go. We will not bow down. Let my people go.
Hello and welcome to episode 90 of the Croydon Constitutionalist podcast, bringing classical liberalism to South London and beyond via our YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. We recently held a public meeting in Purley where we were joined by Liz Cooper, the Reform UK Prospective Parliamentary candidate for nearby Carshalton and Wallington. This meeting took place before Rishi Sunak made his announcement of a general election for the 4th of July. Here is a recording of our conversation. Well, hello and welcome to the Whispers Bar here in a very sunny Purley this evening. And welcome to the latest Croydon Constitutionalists event, and very great welcome to so many new faces. It's so good to see you all here this evening. My name is Dan Heaton and I'll be your host, if you like, for the first part of this evening. And we are delighted to be joined this evening by Elizabeth Cooper, the Reform UK Prospective Parliamentary candidate for the nearby constituency of Carshalton and Wallington. Liz, very warm welcome.
Hello Dan, thank you for having me.
So Liz, we interviewed you for our website a little while ago, but could you just introduce yourself to everybody who's assembled here this evening and just let us know what made you think about becoming a candidate?
So it all started for me with a conversation about politics and the country with a dear friend. My background, so I've been a psychotherapist for 8 years now, and so I've had kind of first-hand experience of, issues that people are facing and what's kind of leading them to, the kind of mental health store really. So I decided to kind of pull up my sleeves a bit and kind of get involved because I feel that, very passionate about the reform policies and what they stand for. And I feel that, having read the policies, that they're very fair and they kind of stand more for kind of equality and, what our country basically needs today.
I see, so of those policies, because you mentioned equality there as a thing, and we hear so much about diversity, equality and inclusion, or equity and inclusion, and this sort of terminology. What is it that you think about the sort of reform policies or the Reform UK's kind of general philosophy, which is more kind of about real equality?
So, as mentioned in some of the questions that I answered, I was kind of drawn to kind of housing and the education policies, which kind of pulled me into to kind of find more information about reform. Education is a real passion of mine. I believe that if people, are educated, it kind of gives them a lot more power and freedom to make decisions and do well in life. And I feel that the education system at the moment is failing, our young people. And I feel that, looking at kind of past, governments and what they've implemented, they're not really thinking about our younger people and educating them to help them into, better paid jobs and jobs where they're passionate about. I've had that struggle myself through education, so I've had that kind of first hand. And then kind of looking at policies around, lowering the student loan interest rate. Things like that would encourage people to step into education more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, certainly education can be a great way for social mobility. Absolutely. I guess, there's different ways of being educated. There's different things. So people, yes, you can go to university and student loans would be a part of that. Alternatively, you could become a tradesperson. And I think possibly in the past 20 years or 30 years or whatever it is, we've been a lot of people have been pushed down the university path. It might have been better becoming tradespeople, but then again, I guess apprenticeships were often looked down upon, and in a world in which you could bring in as many Eastern European plumbers as you wanted, many businesses were not minded to bother with apprenticeships, so it's potentially they'll be more interested in that sort of thing. And for a lot of people, those are good, well-paid jobs, and of course, if you do well at it, you can even set up your own business and create wealth for yourself and your family, other than just simply having a job. So there's no doubt that education's very important. So obviously you've chosen Reform UK as your as your political party of choice. As we sit here today, we've recently had some local elections, and clearly in London we've had the mayoral elections and the GLA elections. What are your thoughts on the results and what it means for Reform UK going forward?
Well, I think it's really positive. I think the outcome of the elections have been really positive for Reform. I know that there's still many people that don't know about Reform and the policies that they're introducing. So I think it's very positive, the outcome, but I think there's still work to be done to educate people and get the word out about what Reform is and what they stand for.
Yeah, it was interesting in terms of the GLA election, because we had Howard Cox come and speak to ourselves here, but in a first past the post system, he was kind of squeezed out, to say the least. It's London, etc., etc. But with his background in terms of motoring, it was kind of, you'd have thought he might have done a bit better. So I think he got just over 3% in London, notwithstanding the fact that in outer London there's been this whole debacle around the ULEZ expansion. But unfortunately, the Conservatives weren't able to take advantage of that, and Khan is back. Yes, indeed, there were some positives for Reform UK in London, not least of which was getting a GLA member via the list, Alex Wilson. Not met him as yet, but hopefully we will have him along at some point, I'm sure. From previous experience, in a previous life, shall we say, I think that's quite important to get somebody on through that list system, because if nothing else, it gets you, you're there. You've got a place where you can speak, and it's very difficult for smaller parties to have that platform to sort of work from. And certainly, the rights and wrongs of different electoral systems. Certainly, other parties have used it very, very well in the past. So that'll be interesting to see how they do that. But I noticed in terms of the sort of the England local elections, there were two Reform UK candidates elected elsewhere in England, and which is good. That's a positive. There's two more than previously, but I know there was some concerns around the number of candidates that were out there in the rest of England. I'm feeling off the top of my head, it was like 230 or something. It's a very small amount, which probably fits in with what you're saying there about Reform UK needing to grow and need to get more people aware of them. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops, and obviously with the general election coming up, that will be good to see. So you mentioned earlier you've got a priority of mental health and education and housing. Can you elaborate on your vision for each of those areas?
I think housing issues and education kind of interlink. All areas kind of interlink and kind of integrate into each other, but these were the kind of policies that drew me in around things like housing. They're saying they're going to prioritise more local people. It's an interesting topic, because if you were a single male with a child, you'd be bottom of the list because of your gender, even if you were local. So we need to really prioritise local people that need housing, over people that have just come into the area. These are people that have lived in the area all their lives, and they need support. Support is key to mental health. I mean, in Surrey, which is just outside, male suicide is one of the highest. This all links into kind of housing and, us educating ourselves to be able to do well. And the economy, which is obviously not within this bracket, is kind of interlinking with that. The economy is being kind of destroyed at the moment for people that are trying to do well for themselves. And, our younger generation can't even afford to get mortgages. So, some of these policies that the Reform are kind of looking at is to kind of help, families, reducing tax for couples, which is almost like a pay rise in itself, isn't it? And, they're also looking at reviewing the planning systems to build new houses. I mean, we've got more people today living in Britain, but there's not enough houses being built. People are room sharing, and the prices of rooms have gone so high that most people spend most of their income on their rent. And this is impacting on mental health.
Oh, I mean, there's no doubt. Obviously I'm of a certain age now, but I imagine that it's known that it obviously puts off people starting families, because if you haven't got a house or whatever, it's very difficult to even look to raise a family, I guess. But picking up on that kind of like planning issue, just generally, and the reason I asked this question is you're standing where you're standing. There will be people, I imagine, in that constituency who were concerned about things like building on the green belt. So you've got two sides to this, haven't you? Really, you've got your demand for housing, wherever that is coming from. That can be coming from local people. That can be coming from people who are moving into the area from wherever they've come from. But you've also got the supply side, which is the building of housing, whether it's 4-bedroom detached properties or whether it's 1-bedroom studio apartments or what have you. But there are people, certainly, I've always found this on the outskirts of London, who are really averse to people building on the green belt. So if Reform UK are talking about building more housing, which undoubtedly, let's be clear, is needed, what would you say to people who, who are going to be in this constituency you're standing in, who say, well, I don't want these properties being built in my area? How would you react to those sort of that line of questioning from people?
Well, obviously I'm not really educated in construction and green belts, so I can't really comment too much on that, but I certainly know that, from the air, there's a lot of area that we have that could be used to potentially build new communities. And there still will be plenty of space for green belt.
No, I think that's fair enough. I think that's absolutely fair comment. Okay, so we don't know when it's going to be. It could be, the election could be called tomorrow. It could be in December. I think the latest it can be is sometime in January. But what have you got planned for your campaign whenever it takes place in the next, I don't know, it'll be 6 months or so?
I think I'd like to get out more and meet people in the community and listen to their concerns, because the way that I see things is it's not about my views and my opinions, it's about working together with people in the community and hearing their concerns, the people that call the area home. It's really important to be inclusive in making decisions and hearing what people would like.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you mentioned earlier was that Reform UK are not as well known as obviously the main political parties. So I think getting out there and getting your face known and getting the brand known is going to be very important wherever anybody is standing at whatever level they are standing at. So Have you got any ideas about how you might go about that? Are you going to set up street stalls of a Saturday or whatever? That's that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think kind of focusing on stores in the high streets, talking to people that want to engage in conversation and having information available for people to read the policies and make informed decisions for themselves.
Excellent. And if anybody wanted to get involved in helping you in your area, how would they go about doing that?
So people can sign up to the Reform website and register as members, and they will be allocated whatever person within that area, and you will have information. So for me, people can email me, telephone me, and get in contact to volunteer in whatever way they want, or as much or as little as they want to.
Excellent. So the best option is to go to the main Reform UK website, and then they'll get channeled through to the local candidate. Excellent. Okay, well I'm just going to finish off with a few silly questions, frankly. Somebody else came up with these ones. So Sutton is famous for its crooners, involving Joan Armatrading, Sir Harry Seacombe, Noel Coward, somebody out of S Club 7, and some guy from Johnny Hates Jazz. So what would you have on your playlist of tunes?
Well, I'm quite versatile in my music, but maybe Harry Seacombe would be in there, but I'm not sure about the others, especially S Club.
Absolutely. What, like songs of praise type stuff? Or
No, a bit more kind of maybe 60s kind of music, or a bit more classical, or even some pop music.
Fair enough. And now, to say this, obviously your surname's Cooper, which is obviously a barrel maker or barrel fixer. So I can only assume that you are familiar with boozers then. So there are 9 pubs on the Carshalton's famous beer crawl. What sort of pub would you be likely founding?
To be honest, I don't really do pubs, but I occasionally go into social clubs, especially within this area, listen to a bit of live music and, support singers, live singers and live music. Excellent.
No, that's always good to support the artists. Well, no, it's been great having a chat with you. I think we've learnt a bit more about you and your views and why you've joined Reform UK. And we've got some details there about how anybody can get involved should they wish to. We're going to do a Q&A in a little bit after we've all had a few refreshments. But for now, Liz Cooper, thank you ever so much.